Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And I have somebody in studio that it's almost such a long running story, but for sure, I'm glad is here. Let's say that. And someone else that is adding to the mix of generational work in community and organizing to the point where when myself and Yusef Shakur, Dr. Yusef Bunchy Shakur, were thinking about, okay, when we're thinking about organizing and it's a state of Black Detroit, who do you reach out to? None other than Carolyn Baker. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm awake.
Okay. You sure?
I'm sure.
This could be in the Matrix.
It could be.
Look at more.
Well, we got two moons, 2 moons now, so we could be.
Who knows? So, with that being said, the Baker Institute, right there on Livernois, in community, doing all types of work, bringing some socialists out, bringing some communists out, bringing some revolutionaries out, organizing all types of people and spaces for environmental justice, social justice, and change, carrying on the tradition of your parents. Talk a little bit about the Baker Institute.
You forgot to mention wannabe capitalists. We bring those out too. We try to. Everybody think they can make it, so everybody think they are capitalists. But yeah, we bring them out too. But yeah, we started the Institute. Well, my dad's been gone for 10 years. And I want to say we've been going for 9, give or take, I think. It was my mom's idea to start an institute because she was concerned, one, about them dying, meaning the elders, and not getting their story told by themselves. And 2, she was worried about his name. Someone using the name and creating some General Baker something. So it's protecting the name and getting the story out. They always said that, other folks have told their story, have written books about their story, but and capitalize off of their story, but they have never told their own story. So that was the goal of the Institute. That's why we started.
Okay, and I love it. And that's a great, as I'm adding these 5-minute pieces to Detroit is Different so people get that scope before we get the full scope, which goes into so much more, because I know a person watching is like, what are we going to find out? Get ready for a rodeo. You and your peoples, how did they get to Detroit?
How did my people get to Detroit? Well,
and really, let me be more clear. Stone's Throw HP for sure, but Detroit, we talking Detroit,
Yeah, so my mom is from Louisiana. From
whereabouts?
Baton Rouge, Port Allen. But then she had moved to Dallas. But she came here out of CORE. She was organizing with CORE and in the civil rights movement and came here. And then my dad was born here. Ocean Sweet, Dr. Ocean Sweet.
Wow.
Delivered my father. And so his family came from Georgia, Sharon, Georgia. They met in the struggle. My parents did, and that's how, I came about and my siblings came about.
Okay. All right, so you, youngest, oldest, where you at with the little?
Oh, man.
And the siblings.
We one of those blended families. So in the first group, I'm the youngest of 5 daughters.
Okay.
And then the next group is 3 after me, but that was not until I graduated. So my parents had to adopt my cousin's kids.
Okay.
So, as they were infants, either not born or I think at the oldest was 5.
Okay.
And then one wasn't born. And then there's one in the middle that was like 1, maybe, not 1 yet. So that's the second group. So it's 8 of us.
So a lot of these Detroit is Different. I always ask what your parents did. And so much of what your parents did influenced so much of your reality. So I'm going to kind of revolve around, go to that question a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Being the youngest in a household like that, with change agents for social justice, what was it like being a kid in a house like that?
Yeah, so I get a different, I guess you could ask all of us that and get a different story
Yeah.
because their activism or organizing didn't start at a late age. They were also young when they started organizing, but they were still having kids. So, so you go through a period where they might have been followed by the FBI. So my other sisters that's a different perspective,
Reality.
than mine. So by the time I'm here, we're in Holland Park. We had already been in Holland Park, but where the house is now, we're in that house. And my dad knew he wasn't going to have any boys. He assumed I was the last one. And so I played basketball because he played basketball. And once he saw Lynette Woodard playing for the Harlem Globetrotters, he was like, "Oh, I got a daughter who can play basketball then."
Okay.
So
you didn't have a choice in the basketball matter.
I did. Like. Well, I was a daddy's girl, so whatever he told me to do, I did. So
okay.
Of course, I like basketball because he took me to see the Harlem Globetrotters when they came.
Okay.
And so that was my path. I was playing sports, and then by that time, my dad, working nights at Ford Rouge plant. And so he would work nights and come home in the morning and cook breakfast. And then either him or my mom, usually him, would take us to school and he would make dinner too. So my dad would make breakfast, dinner, and then he would go to sleep and get ready for work at midnight. He would leave every night. And then my mom so at that point, my mom was doing a lot more traveling and speaking because she was the president of National Welfare Rights Organization, Union, at the time. So she was doing a lot more traveling than my father. So I just knew my mom was always gone out of town or out of the country. But then she would come, when my mom come home. So my dad did parent-teacher conferences. My mom did too when she was in town. My dad cooked breakfast, cooked dinner. And then sports games, my dad was the one who came with the Gatorade for the whole team. He would do the Gatorade mix. So he would make the Gatorade at home. All
right. And then for people that don't know, like, okay, when Gatorade started, it's like me and Carol are about to say it was like Kool-Aid almost. And I don't even know if these kids drink Kool-Aid. So it was you had to have this many parts Gatorade. And usually Gatorade was in a Gatorade, I guess what do we want to call that? Like cooler
the dispenser. It was like the water
big
dispensers.
Orange. Yeah. And
the McDonald's dispensers that
Yep. So that's all we do. Like you mix it and pour it. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So he would bring Gatorade and cups. And he would do water too. So we didn't have a bunch of water bottles then either.
This is back when during my lifetime. I'm an old man now. It's like people were like when water bottles first started selling, they like people gonna buy water.
Yeah. So he would mix all of that at home, put it in the van, bring it to every game, home or away, and he would record every game.
Wow.
So that was I had those parents at every game.
So all right, and I definitely want to talk. I love basketball. You basketball and boxing are my sports. So what position did you play and how did you take to it?
Yeah, in high school, I actually so random. In high school, I played the 4, sometimes 5, which was I was out of position. In college, I played the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So. All right. Wait. Now I gotta really get this whole in the game. So first off, who did you model your game after? Because from 4 to 2, that's now I have to ask that question.
So I had a really good friend who had passed away. He played basketball because I went to Pershing. I played for Pershing.
Oh, for real? You ran with the Doughboys?
Yeah.
Okay. That's like a if people don't know, Pershing High School is like a basketball institution, really nationally known. I think a lot of credit goes to in the 80s, those Southwestern teams with Perry Watson. But when we think of Persian basketball, we think of
Johnny Ghostin. Johnny Ghostin was the coach, and Winford Walton and all of those folks.
Yeah,
Willie Mitchell, Steve Smith,
Spencer Haywood. Steve Smith. Like it was a basketball institute, like USA Today type.
Yeah,
You know,
Todd Bergen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and definitely, you know, them Conan Gardens people. They love some basketball. so Persian. How did you end up at Persian?
Yeah, so I got kicked off my team at Highland Park.
Polar Bears.
Oh my gosh, I went to Highland Park for 1 year.
Uh-huh.
And I hated losing. We were losing all the time. And so because we were losing, I started challenging my coach and just like, you can't coach. So I got into it with my coach. I got kicked off the team. And then I used to always go to St. Rita, which was on State Fair and 75. So that's where it was like the same version of,
St. Cecilia?
Yeah, but Reach, we called it Reach, St. Rita.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we used to play all the time. So I used to play there every Wednesday and Saturday, where they did. Virgil Phillips and Marcus Webster, they used to do training, 2 guys giving back to the hood.
Yeah.
And all the kids were in there. Like we were in there all day. And those games you were taught the same thing you would see over at St. Cecilia, you would see over here. But it was more so the folks on the east side.
Yeah.
And so I would be there. And so a lot of folks over there went to Persian.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I ended up at Persian. So I knew them.
Okay.
Because I was playing there all the time. At AAU there.
And I was going to ask about AAU.
Yeah.
So you played that, and this is, Lord knows, I didn't know, I love basketball, but AAU is such a big discussion as it's transitioned and become a whole to-do. What was AAU like for your experience?
So this is pre-WNBA and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people were in the gym all the time. Girls were in the gym all the time. And there wasn't a lot of hopping from team to team. You stayed and you developed skills. Yeah, and with your high school, and AAU, you played, but that wasn't the big thing. You just played. There was something extra to do in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I played with Reach Legends, but AAU wasn't that big.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so high school.
So you have to look at what's happening now in basketball and think, wow.
Well, I coached too.
For real?
I coached for a long time before my dad.
Well, God bless you in that journey.
Yeah, I coached AAU, and I was there for the whole change of things. And I used to coach with Michigan Crossovers. I coached with Reach, and then I coached with Michigan Crossovers. And we were like the only Nike sponsored team in the city. So we had all the top players.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I coached high school. I was assistant coach at Inkster, and we won the state championship.
Oh, congratulations.
I coached at U of M Dearborn. I was assistant coach at U of M Dearborn. And then I stopped coaching after 2 deaths. Like my father was my friend Victor, who played. That's how you was asking me who I modeled my game after. So Victor Tate, like used to call him the bus driver. So he used to play. He modeled his game after Akeem Olajuwon.
Wow.
And so I used to just study and practice with him all the time.
So Olajuwon's game, a lot of good footwork, precise basketball, like how they would call Tim Duncan the big fundamental. I think he was very fundamental, but like real smooth.
Yeah.
Like it didn't look as, no offense to any Spurs fan, not as boring. And then, wait, I'm a Pistons fan. Yeah, not as boring. I'm still mad about that. But so also in
But I didn't play like Olajuwon. I tried to focus on the fundamentals.
Okay.
But Victor played like Olajuwon.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely did. For his height, playing in the post, he was shorter, but he would get them with up and unders.
Yeah, good footwork.
Fakes, yeah.
Okay. And then your style, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so it was basically fundamentals, but I was like an undersized. I should never have been playing the 4 or the 5. Because back then, I mean, King was one of the top schools in Murray Wright for women. And you had Sparkle, who was dunking. You had the Twin Towers are king. So I had no business playing, but
Mhm.
I was just trying to get rebounds and pass it to the guard
Yeah.
and make my layups.
Mhm.
Yep. So that's. But in college, I played the two. I can actually shoot, and so in college, I started playing
So
the two.
every time I talk to anybody basketball, shout
Mhm.
out Toby, one of my last basketball conversations. And then you said you coach. Like, it's almost like you got two eras of basketball nowadays. You got like before everyone wanted to be Steph Curry. And then after everybody wants to be
Yeah.
Steph Curry, you were coaching through that because I know you all that are kids watching this right now. Like if you're in high school, you're thinking like I should be putting up about 6, 7 threes a game. And you could shoot. If you would have put up 3 threes and they even went in, you'll be find your way swiftly on the bench.
Yeah.
How have you transitioned into like this new style of basketball? And that's actually one of the coolest things I like in women's college basketball is the three.
Yeah.
But it's still like one of those things fundamentally, like it seems like games can just get so far out of control nowadays.
Yeah. I hate it more when I see the post player shooting. Coming down, pulling up. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they got the green light, but you didn't have.
Oh, no.
And so I can't imagine how many Steph Currys were actually out there if they had the same green light. So
That's
the thing.
you wonder.
Yeah.
You definitely wonder. So, like I say, we don't know where these Detroiters difference go. And your dad's game, and your dad liked
He
to
played
play.
for WC3.
Okay,
No, Highland Park Community
he
College.
played HP.
Yeah, Highland Park Community College.
Okay,
There's a picture of him somewhere.
what position and
Post
what was
player.
okay? What did he like to? What was his style
Well, so that's back. I don't
back in
know.
the day?
They were bank shots and finger roll. That was back.
Okay, that back
And
in
they
the day.
wore All Stars. I mean, he got
'Cause-
on Chuck Taylor.
Because
So,
it
yeah.
was two styles back in the day like
Yeah.
that, especially for post players.
He was
It
a huge
like
sports fan,
basically
though.
beat you up basketball.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that's not a foul. And then it was like more of a finesse style. So your dad was more of
Yeah, just probably layup. I guess layup. I never saw him play.
Oh, for
Because-
real?
No.
Okay.
No, I never saw him play.
Okay. I'm surprised he never just went on and be like, let me show you something.
No,
Something.
he never.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. So in that, also this mix, now we can talk a little bit about it. So as much as we're saying this, your father and your mother very entrenched in a lot of social change. As you said, you just mentioned the FBI and things, but so much organizing always present in their work.
Mhm.
So now let's talk a little bit about that path, and then in it, the beauty of still finding that solace into that family structure, and being the person that makes the Gatorade in that. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes life is so separated from the movement,
Mhm.
but life and the movement must coexist. Because so many stories we hear of the movement and the families and the children of the movement, and it's real. There's some people that grew up in it that the experiences can be so tough,
Mhm.
even sometimes in the same household. Whereas for others, it's a different experience. So that's beautiful to hear stories of that family and movement having balance. So in that journey, your father
Mhm.
organizes and begins. What was the trigger to say, okay, we ain't going for this?
Yeah. So for him or for me?
For him.
For him. So it's so weird to talk about. People will find this hard to believe
Mm-hmm.
that I really didn't understand how much organizing and what my father's accomplishments were.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't understand it until he passed.
Mm.
I mean, I knew he was.
Mm-hmm.
People liked him. He did a lot, but the scope of it and actually, I didn't meet that person until after he passed away.
Mm.
He didn't talk about so. it's so strange to talk about because I have friends who found out about him passing away and then got like little bios. It was like, why you ain't never tell me? Like it just didn't come up. And then when they came over, he would ask them about he would talk to them about basketball.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like how how elders sometimes you go over and they talk to you about the past and
Everything they
nope.
did and marching with Dr. King.
Nope. He talked about basketball. He couldn't stand Duke. If you filled out your bracket,
Hilarious.
and or what was going on today, briefly, like, but it was like that. It was just chill. That's how he talked, and so like I knew some of the things, and I got to see arrest them taking over housing, taking over the projects, and moving homeless people in, and going to demonstrations. But the past stuff I didn't know until. And my mom, actually, not until I didn't really get a good grasp of it until after he passed.
So I guess in that, exploring that a little bit, as grief is a part of the journey of life, but also the ways that I don't want to say cope or deal with, but the ways we live through, in finding that balance. So at that moment, I'm guessing your father passing is completely life-changing. And now you're discovering more. Were you seeking the information about your father, or was it more so just being brought to you?
It's so funny. When he passed, when he passed, I knew like we had to do something on his life. And people always would say when he was around, my mom still says, we got to get somebody to write your story, or we got to write our story, right? When he passed away, that day he passed away, like literally, we went to the house. You know how people come over after someone passed. It was like the next day, maybe. We were sitting in the dining room trying to write the obituary. And it was so many, when I say it was so many people in that house. And we were sitting around trying to write the obituary, the daughters, because my mom didn't want to have nothing to do with it. She was in the other room. But everybody was like, you got to put this part in there. You got to put when he did this. And when I say it's like a lot, I'm not going to name any names right now, but because they're still alive. But the people who were in there, like, you got to do this or you got to do that and put this in. I'm like, oh, okay, stop. We're not writing a book. We're just doing the obituary. So from there, it was like, okay, after that, I need to figure out, like, what is all these things that people are talking about that we got to put in obituary? And so just like trying to find out more information like that. And then doing the Institute. Like, the way we started the Institute was strictly to do a documentary. And we started by collecting stories. So through that process, I got to learn a lot about both of their lives through those interviews. And then going back and actually, because YouTube started getting big, so people started posting videos of him because he had passed that they had. And so getting to see those interviews and listen to him talk, I was like, oh, okay. And then doing my own timeline. So it wasn't, that's how I got involved in like really studying his life and understanding it. And my mom's too. Yeah, I guess just
So,
yeah.
so with this, and that's I love the way that you bring that to life, because if anyone ever been in that process, just writing it could be overwhelming. And I can only imagine for the work of your father, and I don't know everything and all the details. But from what I know, I could only imagine what that could be of like, because some things will get left out.
Yeah.
And then also, in movement and everything, people will be at people will be at your service saying like, this is why you should have brought this up, because this is what's happening right now. When you
gotta
see
put
what's
my
happening,
name.
yeah, exactly. You got to put my name in that organization, because that organization is connected to what's happening right now in Nigeria, brother. And if you knew, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh my gosh.
We got to make sure we put family down, and you know what I'm saying. And also in balancing this, your mother, your mother's processing and living
Mhm.
with this as well. And
Mhm.
so many people come over in tradition after a passing
Mhm.
of someone that's beloved out of love and support.
Yeah.
But even now, as you go on like I guess like a journey of like writing a dissertation, like a doctorate about your parents.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much more than just yeah. So that's another thing. Like I wouldn't just do, and she wouldn't let me just do them because it would just have to be a whole bunch. That's how they are.
Because their stories are so interconnected to so many other people, but it
Right.
starts with them connecting to all these other people.
Mhm.
So if that's the spark necessarily for you in this journey, what were some of the things that as you begin saying, okay, I need to find out more about this, what were some of the things that automatically stand out where you were like, whoa, for real, my dad was doing that while he's still dad, and mom is doing that while she's still mom? What were some of the things that just like popped out like, okay?
I don't know. I wasn't surprised about anything because, like I said, I got to see the arrest and some arrest around around homeless the homeless issue and fighting against Coleman Young. I got to see like that firsthand, and so like um yeah, I don't know if I don't know. I guess the one of the things is that we just put up. We had Quasi do at the building. We put up his letter to the draft board. Yeah, his letter to the draft board. Um, he was very adamant, and he was like what, 24 when he wrote this letter. He was drafted. He wrote a letter to the draft board saying how, and if folks have never read it, you can one come over to the institute to read it because Quasi did an awesome installation of it, or you can look it up. And and what he did was like say why he wouldn't go fight in this in the military and how impure is basically. I don't want to give it away. Just like at 24, the way he wrote that letter was a very international letter. Um, and it was a very like the young black guy saying, "No, I will never fight for you." So that was one, and that was a year before Muhammad Ali.
And also, so people get a scope of this, this is not 2024. This is not post George Floyd protest America.
Right.
This isn't Twitter America. This is very much so where, you know, my grandfather, a World War II veteran, we're one of the few black families that, you know, were able, this home itself was purchased with the GI Bill. I think some of that was because my grandfather lost a leg in World War II. Cousin like an uncle, Billy. It was just known. Let's see, who else? My great uncle, all my great uncles were servicemen. So that's Uncle Edward, Uncle Edwin, Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe, not great uncle, in the service. Like it was just such a known reality for men that part of your journey in manhood was for service at that time. And to not want to serve, not only are you less of a man, you're a coward
Mm-hmm.
and you're un-American and you're a communist and you can be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So like these are like the social pariah that you're becoming. I mean, this is a year before Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
who loses everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a man with less and so much more to lose
Mm-hmm.
still has the boldness and courage
Yeah.
to, as the kids say, stand on business
Yeah.
and be there, you know?
Yeah. And he, matter of fact, they called, not only did he write that letter, they called for on his induction date because he purposely went down there past the physical
Mm.
so that they couldn't say that he wasn't physically fit. He wanted them to know that he's physically fit to fight. But
Mm.
after he passed the physical, he told them, call the police because I'm not joining your army.
Yeah.
And so, um, And they called for a protest. So that was September 10th, 1964, the day of his. They called for like thousands of people to show up at Fort Wayne to protest his induction. And he always says like only 9 of them showed up.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
And then only 9 people. But the military was prepared. They had like canceled all leave and made people be there. They had called in people from other bases to come and be prepared because they thought they was gonna have a big demonstration on their hand. And so all they did was send him home and declared him a security risk. They was like, you go home. We ain't gonna arrest you.
And that's at 24.
Yeah.
And running concurrent, that's definitely that, like finding something out about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mother's work, and then them working together and connecting with so many other people. You said nothing ever shocked you, but what's a name that stood out as you were finding out more about your parents' work that it's like, wow, you were working with them?
So yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this, but I guess it's a bunch of stories. I don't know, it's a bunch of folks. So like Robert Williams. So this was another thing. My parents would drag me around all the time as a kid.
So some of these people you met but didn't know a context to it.
Right.
They were just my parents' friends.
So I personally, and I know this for sure, have the last video footage somewhere at my parents' house, or it's at the Institute, of Robert F. Williams.
Wow.
Because my parents was like, we about to go see Robert Williams, and my dad wanted me to videotape.
Mm-hmm.
I used to always try to videotape. And so I didn't know who I was recording. I was just recording.
Your parents' friend.
So fast forward, I'm like, oh, shoot. I need to go find that tape.
Yeah, and it's so unique because similar, we're in my grandmother's bedroom when I was a kid, but she was the minister of music at Christ Presbyterian Church, which was the pastor over Christ Presbyterian Church was Milton Henry, Gaedio Bedelli. And I had no idea, similar, almost the same way. Like I had no idea that like he's my grandma's friend. And then I'm working at the Michigan Citizen at the time, and Paul Lee sending all these emails after he passes. Because my mom was like, Reverend Henry died today. And I was like, man, that's messed up. I was like, damn, I know he was older, prayers up and everything. Then I get all the flood of these emails. And then I open up like a 4-page spread in the Michigan Citizen. Like the only reason I kind of knew, I went to Aisha Shule, right? And if you go to African Center schools, you'll have in the library books on Fidel Castro, right? So one time, and I don't know if you've ever met, I'm sure you probably met him, but he had like a signature voice too. So he walked over to my grandma one day after choir rehearsal, and he was like, Mary, I'm gonna be in Cuba for a couple weeks. When I come back, I'm gonna get something for that boy. And then I'm like, okay. And then I do this report. And then I'm like, I thought you couldn't go to Cuba. And then he just looked at me. He smiled and then like patted me on my head because he was so tall and stuff. And I'm a kid. That's the only thing that I kind of knew something was different. But I was thinking, okay, I don't know. Possible like vacation. I had no idea who he was other than my grandma friend. So I'm guessing it was probably people like that your whole life.
Yeah. I think so.
That's just like, these my parents' homies.
Yeah.
And then in that organizing, as you're learning even more about your mom's life and traveling all places, like across the nation and the world, what was your thought process of like, okay, my mom's traveling, leading this organization. What did you like say, okay, what's she talking about?
When I was younger?
Yeah. You just looked at it like...
No, I just knew, I assumed, because like I said, one of the things I saw was the homeless organizing they were doing. They were wearing fatigues. This was during Desert Storm, right? That's that war we were. There wasn't that Desert Storm.
Well, it was like an operation. A lot of these
Yeah.
wars aren't declared wars for a lot of like economic
Yeah.
reasons, but yeah, it was like
Operation Desert
Operation
Storm.
Desert Storm. I remember that.
So my parents called themselves something Operation Desert something, but they wore fatigues around the city of Detroit, and they were organizing homeless folks.
Wow.
And they were taking over the projects, and they had these tent cities. It was the homeless union movement that they had, and so I was a part of all of that. And I remember so I figured that's what my mom was doing.
Yeah. So you knew something,
organizing around poverty, right?
and within this organizing, because there's so much boots on the ground work. Now in the institute, so this is definitely jumping forward to today as you're archiving this, speaking to some of what your mom did, and speaking to right now. Did you ever recognize, like, okay, what they're doing is becoming academic and people are studying it and building, institutions, foundations, grants, or organizations? Like, it's almost become like a how-to guide to do the work and studying it academically, but not necessarily doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, when we first started, there was a Left Roots. It was an organization, I think, that was running a General Baker boot camp or some shit. I don't know. And so we was like, what the hell is this? That's when we really was like, okay, we got to protect the name and legacy, because if they're going to be calling it this, this is might going to be a lot of organizers' first time hearing who General Baker is or was. And so if they're doing something and they have a bad experience with it, or it's just not the right, we were concerned about that. But yes, we had noticed all this was reason my mom wanted to do it. So many scholars, academics had written books, and their names are in a lot of books, or their interviews are in a lot of books. And people have made money off of those books. Or I even still see today some professors, like, that's in their bio, General Baker. So like they get jobs off of this stuff. So yeah, I mean that's one of the things that we can't control, but we try to make sure our name is out there. So if people want more knowledge about it, we can offer, like, my mom and dad's perspective on things.
So this kind of goes back into where sports lie right now with college sports, like name, image, and likeness, as they say. The name, image, and likeness becomes something of a commodity of an intellectual property itself. And you're in this space on behalf of the legacy of your parents.
Yep.
What have you learned? Because I'm sure in entering this space, you would think, hey, they're my peoples. My mama right here.
Yeah.
But then they're still like, not exactly. What have you found entering this space with that? Because this is always sometimes my, I don't know if I want to say gripe, but my arguments against the academic institution. And the Kari Fraser stance is all these institutions in America have foundations and roots of exploiting specifically my people, Black folks. So whether it be the medical, whether it be the justice, whether it be the education or academic, and this makes the functionality, as I always go back to, America's designed for white men with businesses and property. And the further you get away from that, the functionality of America is not functioning. Hence, the institutions stabilize and sustain that. So, navigating this space, because some of the people inside the institutions do want to pour in and figure out ways to pick up the work, but some people are also, do I want to use the term exploiting? I want to say some of the people are I'm gonna be optimistic here, misunderstanding the roots of the work in the first place. And that's one of the toughest things about so much. Sometimes when I look at the academia towards organizing, like, it's to help people, so if you're spending tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars trying to figure out and triangulate the right data and the right information point to figure out the right 10 points of where things were. It's like, no, they were trying to help people. So if you help people, I'm not necessarily saying that you can't use a lot of those guys to structures, but my thought process is always that your mother and father being 30 today would be applying some of those ethics from before, but would be adapting to what's happening today. So by exalting so much of the academic side of it, you're missing the point of being with the people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's why we called it an institute. It's like a play on, like, we are an institute in itself, but we're doing political education, like popular education. We're rooted in that, and we're rooted in oral history, owning your stories, kind of like taking that back. And so within that, we have our own archive in the building, which includes a lot of videos, which includes a lot of paper, FBI files, and books, and stuff from their organizing time. And so we thought it's very important to have that outside of these public institutions or private institutions, and have it right in the neighborhood. Like, so what does it mean for a kid from around the corner to come into our building and be able to look and check out FBI files, without having to go and have an ID card at a university?
Now you getting now the FBI following you just
Right.
because you just wanted to find out, like, hey, he lived down the street from my mama.
Right.
Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, and then the same thing is like with that video footage, like, how can we have that video footage? And we're in the what we did this summer was try to take clips of Finally Got the News, like the audio clips, and I tried to get the kids to make beats over it, like to take the voice of, like, there's a part they took of Ken Cockrell singing in the movie, buy shit on credit, like when he was talking, they give you a little bush. And so we tried to take that and have kids make a beat out of it. And so, like, we try to do education that way as well. But just what does it mean to be right there in the neighborhood and people be able to touch and talk and have, like, panel discussions with people who would normally, we want to get into doing that more, like bringing in people who would normally go to institutions to speak, come to the neighborhood and do that same speech or do that same panel discussion, and people can walk around the corner and come see you. So that's why we call ourselves an institute. We're a neighborhood institute.
And the space itself is in a historic space.
Yeah.
It's in where May's printing was for so long. And you all also did something else that's historic to this day. You all operated through COVID. And there's a lot of places that, boy.
We was having our grand opening and COVID hit. So
what was that experience like, and what kept the dedication to the work still?
Well, we were doing classes. We had started, we never thought we were going to have a space. Let's back up, because we were operating out of the Charles Wright Museum for a while until they figured out what kind of classes we were teaching, and we got the boot.
Yeah, they was like, what is y'all doing? This is a little too black for the Black Museum.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had people coming into our classes, and we kind of figured that it wouldn't be long. When we saw a city council person come in, we was like, oh, that'll probably be done next week.
Well, there you go.
And then it happened right in time, because then we got the space. But yeah, we had started off doing classes and people found out about our classes via Facebook. And then we had taught.
What type of classes?
Political education classes. So we always start with the evolution of a revolutionary, where we talk about my dad. So we introduce folks to him and his journey and show you like how he became the person he, when he passed.
What type of people started coming to the classes?
Yeah, it was a wide range of people because, like I said, people found out through Facebook that we had never seen before. It was a wide range.
Okay.
And then COVID hit, and we was like, oh, because we didn't know. We were like, we had a series because the next series was going to be on systems. It was based in superstructure. How are we governed was the name of the class because we had taken a bunch of folks, a lot of organizers, and matched them up with younger folks, and we had developed this whole curriculum.
It's like intergenerational speed dating around organized.
Yeah, but they had to teach.
Okay.
And so we had a whole series ready to go. And everybody was matched up together. And we did the first class, and then boom. We was like, oh, we're gonna pause. We'll start up again in 2 weeks. You never
know. When COVID happened, first people were thinking, this may be like a week or two.
Yeah.
I'll catch up on some Netflix.
Yep. And then we shut down. So we shut down. We were in there all the time, but we shut down.
And also another level of care, not saying that people did not care about people that weren't elders, but being that elders are involved, anything COVID related, you're paying a lot more attention to.
Yep. Yeah, and we just started got into, because I'm a big fan of Walking Dead. I'm a prepper, so
okay. You show the people your coffee. She like Majon and Rick with that. That's the coffee team.
A whole bunch of. It's not just coffee, but yeah. I feel if you need it, you better bring it. Figure out a way to pack it.
Okay.
And so that's how I move.
I got you.
I'm gonna do a segment like on organize. Don't steal my idea now. I'm gonna do a segment on organizers, like what's in your backpack. When people come into the building, I'm gonna ask organizers. I want to see what's in their bag.
That's cool.
I think I'm gonna do that one day when I have time. But yeah. So we shut down, but then we started. We stored water actually because we had the warehouse. We still have the warehouse. We started storing water then for the People's Water Board and We the People. We were storing water for both. And we had our whole warehouse was filled with water during COVID. And so because they were still doing water shutoffs during COVID, at the beginning of COVID. And then they finally, stopped the water shutoffs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what process of COVID, but they were still doing water drops. So that's one area. And then we partnered with Yusuf. We partnered with Mama Cool House, and who else was? I don't know. We started doing those educationals.
Yeah, and that's where we met.
Yeah, because we did one here.
It was one at the Shed over with Quasi Space.
It was at the Shed. It was one at Yusuf Space, and then it was one at GBI. I think that was it. I can't remember, but yeah, we started doing those educationals every week.
And kind of picking up in that same scope of the work.
Yeah. And it was just outside.
Yeah. And as you all were like, I guess like the plan is being present for a pivot where the people go. How have you adapted to this work? And then just period, like, just Carolyn life. You know what I'm saying? Like, at what point do you say, okay, this is what I got to do?
So, yeah, I mean, it's so funny.
Because you were coaching and all of that stuff. When did you transition a trunk full of jerseys and basketballs to like half and half? It's like papers and videotapes.
I was teaching pre-K as well. I was teaching in Ann Arbor for U of M. So I was also teaching when my dad passed and when we were doing the institute. When we had first started. So yeah, I transitioned like for coaching. What I did for my organizing, because I wasn't able to follow I didn't study my parents' style of organizing so much because I wasn't paying attention. As kids don't pay attention to their parents. And if they do, they don't want to do anything their parents are doing.
Yeah, that's it.
And so I approached organizing, I took coaching
Wow.
as an approach. So recruiting, I had to recruit
Mm.
because I told you I coached for U of M. This is I'm about to sound so horrible, but I coached for U of M Dearborn. And so the approach I took, and I still take for organizing is sometimes organizers like to learn. I don't know if they're activists. It's a difference between activists and organizers,
Mm-hmm.
I think. People will study, learn the stuff, and then they don't listen.
Mm.
And that's not just with activism and organizing. That's just life, period.
People,
don't listen,
but a good coach.
but they listen long enough so that they can talk,
Mm.
right? So like you're listening to somebody, waiting for them to stop talking so you can say something.
Mm.
So with the organizing approach, I listen and try to find my in. And that's how you do with recruiting, right? You try to find your in. What about this person? What can not sell, but what is it going to make them want to come back or choose this institute to come play for us, right? So for organizing, I think of like truly, which is what I'm learning is a long process. I hear people say this all the time, but they don't actually do it. Meeting people where they are is like literally that. You have to listen long enough and not take things personal. I always say this, when people come through our doors, we're meeting them where they're at. They can come in our doors and say, I can't stand Black women with dreads who wear baseball caps that got a D on it. And I'd be like, I can't stand them sometimes too. I don't take it personal. Just because we don't agree, everything outside these walls is trying to divide us. When you come in here, we're trying to find a middle ground, somewhere we can kind of connect. And so even if I don't agree with you, that doesn't stop me from working with you. It might limit how I move, but you're not my enemy and I'm not your enemy. We have a larger enemy. And so that's the approach I take for organizing is like, where's my end? How can I how do I get them to come back for more? And so even with volunteering, people say, what do you want us to do? I know chances are they'll come back if it's something that they like. And so I try to find that and build relationships.
So you're applying a lot from what you learned in your years of coaching, what was effective, which I can imagine also, this is just my thought process, I could see some of the OGs in this saying, oh, that ain't the way to do it. So how do you get a person that has experience in the work, understanding of your method and having that bandwidth?
Oh, it's not I don't care. I don't really, I don't try to get them to understand because half the time, someone who disagrees is probably not even paying attention to me. So we assume that folks are paying attention to you all the time. It's not a lot of people who actually read the room and actually read the room enough to pay attention. And so most of the people who would disagree with me probably don't even know what I'm doing. Or they think they have some idea of what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. I rarely have anybody sit down and ask me.
Wow.
And so we got a lot of assumptions on things and how we move or how I move. And they don't really know. And I don't take it, like I said, I don't take it personal. I think I'm just a true Aries.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you build up the skin for that? Because so a lot of this work is passionate.
Yeah.
It's intimate. So taking things personally, it's top of the list for many.
I don't know. I can agree because there's so much more I got to do. And so if I'm focused on like, I might be mad for a second, but I get over it. I thought I was special until I read some things on Aries. I didn't really pay attention to horoscopes. I saw something on Aries. I said, oh no, that must be a lot of Aries. A lot of people who I don't know what your sign is, but I think it's a lot of Aries are like me. I hate doing this right now. I hate being on the camera. I prefer to be behind the scenes.
Yeah. Which I thank you so much for being open to this.
Yeah. And so being behind the scenes, you can watch, right? You can see. And like I said, I don't take things personal because half of people's anger is not about, if they knew me, if they truly knew me, they probably wouldn't be upset with me.
Yeah.
Or they might be, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But half of the things is something in their life. I don't know what happened when they when they got up this morning. They could have a bad day. So I know I have bad days. And so I try not to take things too personal.
Mm.
And it is, unless I really did something and I'll feel bad about it, and I try to be genuine about that. But if I haven't done anything, I'm stubborn and I just, yeah.
So last question before the classic questions I have is this. So if you've moved into this role, and with your flow and your method, how have you taken to the response of like me and others calling you up like, yo, we want you to speak here. We want you to be a part of this. How has that been for you to now be in a space of movement and speaking to it and offering your knowledge to that?
It was growth. I did not talk in the beginning. I would always send someone, or I'll ask what they're looking for and try to find someone. Most of the times it was always Crystal, my youngest sibling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured now like I don't have a choice. And so I do it. And I'm growing, like I've grown to like be okay with it. Yeah, so it's fine. I still try to be behind the scenes as much as possible. But I know my aunt's not going to do it at all. So I really have to step up and do it. And yeah, so I just accepted the role. So it's been a growth process because about when we first started, I wouldn't have talked at all.
So you see it almost like, I guess I'm going to liken it back to basketball. When you're a freshman, eventually you're going to end up starting. And right now, you just happen to be starting as a freshman late in the game because you need it. Somebody else.
You had no choice.
Yeah. So making those adjustments.
Yeah.
All right. So classic Detroit is different questions. Your very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Oh my gosh. So first car was my mom's green Escort station wagon. I don't know what year it was.
Okay.
And I only when she got the car, she said it was mine, but I wasn't driving. It was her car. She's like, I got you a car. And I was in high school, but I didn't get to drive it till I went to my third year in college.
Okay. All right. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks. You get to play one song. What you playing?
Where is it at? Who's the crowd?
It's the end of the Detroit fireworks. You're at, I guess now they call it Spirit Plaza, Woodward and Jefferson. And it's the firework crowd.
I'm going to play LJ Reynolds because it's Detroit. The key to the world.
I knew you meant key to the world. It's like shout out LJ though, because it make it seem like he don't got another song. That is the song we love in Detroit. But shout out Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah.
And you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
Rename Woodward after one Detroiter. That's a good question. I don't know. I got to think about that one. I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to, or can I phone a friend? I don't know.
Phone a friend. This isn't, I forget, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say it for you. We're going to name it after your pops.
No, he would hate it. Oh, my gosh.
We're going to name it after your pops.
He already got a building.
And then when the passing happens, we get the OG there too. So it's that full structure. All types of revolution happening up and down Woodward.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. Thank you so much, Carolyn. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, can I shout out something?
Oh, yeah. You got something coming up. Hey, get this. Something's coming up in a couple of days. It's more of that organizing. What's happening?
So we're doing, and we want to do more of these, but this is our first educational fashion show. It's a way of blending the two. And so I got some samples. So I'm going to give first exclusives of.
Okay, first off, like it's so much cool gear, and I need to come there with like to cash out because I'm seeing like the hoodies and the sweatshirts and the t-shirts.
Yeah, I did this.
I love the shirt that I got at the Malcolm X Day the other day. The I'm not blaming black people for nothing.
Oh yeah, I know. That's Uhuru said
I need that. I need another one of those because I've worn that to the ground.
Yeah.
But I need like a lot of gear. It's some real cool gear.
Yeah. So we're trying to, and we started that there. How can we educate folks in a fun way, and not intimidating way? And how can we blend the culture, blend education with all the culture? Like make sure it's there and present and not just a side thing. And so education and fashion. And how can we popularize our movement folks, our elders who are still alive? And so we were going to have some of them there signing autographs. I think we did that at that event.
I have. You see, when you walked up the steps, I have my poster outside.
Yeah. And so, like, you can bring that if you come to the event. You can bring it because others are going to be there and have them sign. And so, like, what does it mean to wear their names in the year they had any? Let's walk around and popularize them
instead of like Gotti's and Lucianos,
or even these athletes.
Yeah,
haven't done nothing for your neighbor. So but yeah, so this is like one of the exclusives. So Black Student United Front was a movement here of Black students in the city of Detroit that was inspired by the league. And so like this one says Highland Park on the back was one of the schools that was organized in the year. And then we partnered with Quasi, and Quasi did our shirts. And so this is the drum slate from that poster. And on the back it says the drum slate. And then
I know Quasi was beyond excited to something like this.
And then this one is the Women of Michigan Welfare Rights who have passed. These are some of the names, and on the back it has "Long Live These Sisters in Struggle." And then two more. I have like the Ghetto Coffee Shop was an actual space in the city of Detroit.
I saw that one. I like the whole feel of that one. That looks funky.
Yeah, and this one is drum on the back, 67. And then I got others that I didn't bring, but then this one is the Crusader, and it says Robert F. Williams, publisher in exile. And so this was the newspaper that he had put out back then.
And for people that don't know, Robert F. Williams, Negroes with Guns, and I assume even if you write a book like that today, you're going to end up with a lot of authorities following you, because you would be surprised how people love those amendment rights when it ain't black people having those arms. Even California itself was one of the most open carry states ever. And then the Panthers came alive, and it was Ronald Reagan and himself and all them conservatives said, we need to have some gun reform.
And then this one is the league one. This is Ken Cockrell, Jim Baker, Mike Hamlin, Luke Tripp, John. And it's only two people living on here. And actually, John will be there. He'll sign. And so this is September 19th from 2 to 4 at 15798 Livernois.
And I'm going to ask her, can some of those wares make it into the My Natural Hair show? We gonna work out some stuff. That's October 26th. Y'all know what Detroit is different. We only do a couple big things. It seems like we always doing something. And guess what? If she's in town, y'all see it. December 30th, we talking more organizing at the State of Black Detroit.
Yeah.
Connecting.
Yep. So we got other fashions that I didn't bring that I don't want to reveal yet. But
for October 19th.
2 to 4.
2 to 4
at the
Baker Institute. That's right on Livernois. I know where it's at. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some food. We love some food.
We got food. And I know it's Sweetest Day, but bring your sweetie and learn something. Yeah. And then we're gonna have autographs of those OGs are signing things. So
Yeah. Self autograph. And then when you come up here to Detroit, it's different, and you walk up the steps like, who are they? And it was there. You could have got the gear. You could have got the autograph. Could have got the experience.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.